I'm always really easily swayed by hype around new books and new releases, so the new releases video is one of my favourites to film every month, and I always end up adding a bunch of new titles while I'm doing the research for it. This isn't a comprehensive list of all the books that are coming out this month. There might be some highly anticipated new releases that just don't appeal to me. This is the books I specifically am interested in, and I hope that you're going to find something that maybe you haven't already heard of yet. Let me know what your most anticipated February release is in the comments and whether any of the ones on my list match up. Kicking us off on February 3rd, the first book that I have here is Apparently Sir Cameron Needs to Die by Greer Struthers. This is one that I have an arc for. I haven't got to it yet, but I am really highly anticipating this one. It's been pitched as similar to Caitlin Rosakis' Dreadful, and that was one of my favourite books in the year I read it, so I have really high hopes for this debut. All his life, Sir Cameron has stayed as far away from danger as possible. He is, quite frankly, too handsome to die a violent and pointless death in battle. But when the church hands down a prophecy to his fellow knights, predicting that the only way to defeat their nemesis, the mad sorcerer Merullo, is to kill Cameron, he finds himself in a situation too sticky for even his considerable wiles. Short of ideas, Cameron throws himself on the mercy of the one person who now actually wants him to survive, the mad sorcerer. Merullo isn't thrilled to be babysitting a spoilt, attention-seeking knight, but fate has tied them together, and transmorgifying Cameron into a vulture is at least a great source of entertainment. Cameron, meanwhile, is on a voyage of self-discovery. It turns out that he's really into surly sorcerers who lock him up and tell him what to do. Who knew? As a legion of knights surround their stronghold, the sorcerer's poisonous ambitions draw ever closer to fruition. Cameron is quite invested in not dying, but he finds he's also invested in Merullo. And sometimes supporting the sorcerer you care about means taking the interest in their hobbies, even if that hobby is trying to kill God, even if it might get you killed too. The next book is The Glowing Hours by Leela Siddiqui, and this one, I will admit, I mostly added to my TBR because I'm a big Frankenstein fan. I've always loved that story, and especially with the relatively recent Del Toro film still fresh in my mind, the connection to Mary Shelley and how that's going to factor into this story definitely interests me. Summer 1816. London is a hostile place for the newly disembarked Meronisa Begum, who's come to deliver her brother's letter of inheritance before returning to her comfortable life in Lucknow, India. Only she can't find her brother anywhere and has no money for the return trip. With nowhere else to go, Mer finds refuge in a boarding house for Indian housemaids. If she can't find her brother, she reasons, she will get a job and start saving. Mer is soon hired at the English estate of Mary and Percy Shelley, young artists of burgeoning fame who are on the run from secrets of their own. Mary is brooding and quiet, but takes a cautious liking to her new housemaid, asking her to accompany the Shelleys and her half-sister Claire, as well as the eccentric Lord Byron and his physician John Polidori, to Lake Geneva for the summer. Almost immediately, Mer notices strange ghostly events at the villa. The walls have their own heartbeat, eerie portraits shift gaze, phantoms appear like house guests who refuse to leave. The weather is fierce and foreboding, showing no signs of softening its relentless pall. And as Mary Shelley begins to work on what will become her earth-shattering literary phenomenon, Mer finds herself trapped in the villa as the rest of its inhabitants descend into madness. Lightening things back up a little bit, we have How to Kill a Guy in 10 Dates by Shelley Thompson. Sounds like it's just going to be a lot of fun. It's about a girl who gets caught in a slasher spree at a speed dating event, and I think it could be something that will break up more of the epic fantasies and gothic stories that I probably will have on my thanks to my seasonal reading habits. When Jamie Prescott and her best friend Laurie attend a speed dating event, Jamie expects to meet a roster of mediocre men and indulge in some street food afterwards. She doesn't expect one of her dates to have his throat slit at the table during a blackout. When the lights come back on and there are more bodies on the floor, it becomes clear that speed dating can be a very dangerous pastime. Armed with makeshift weapons and Jamie's extensive knowledge of what not to do in a horror movie, the remaining speed daters try to find an exit while the killer adds to their body count. As the night progresses and Jamie comes face to mask with the murderer, she begins to suspect he's committing the slayings to woo one of the daters and turn her into his real-life final girl. But Jamie has a different love story in mind, and as she fights for her life, she can't help but find herself ensconced in a love triangle with two of the other speed daters. Will she survive the bloodshed to find her happily ever after? Or does this machete-wielding psychopath have another final girl in mind? Get Over It, April Evans by Ashley Herring Blake is actually the second in a series, is actually the second Clover Lake book, but I think these will probably stand alone just fine because of the type of romance novel they are, and this is the one that interested me, so even though I haven't read that first book, I'm still going to be putting this one on my TBR. April Evans' life is a shambles. She's had to close her tattoo shop in Clover Lake, and she's subletting her house just to make rent. And her love life? Non-existent ever since Elena, her ex-fiancé, left her for a younger woman 3 years ago. When she's asked to teach a summer art class at the town's new resort called Cloverwild, April jumps at the opportunity, especially since the job comes with boarding. She's sure that this is the silver lining she needs. Until she meets Daphne Love, the woman who stole her ex-fiancé. And even worse, it's clear Daphne has no idea who April is. Daphne Love is cursed in, well, love. She thought she'd found the unconditional love she craved in her girlfriend Elena, but now she's single again and utterly heartbroken. When her friend hooks her up with a summer gig as an art instructor at a swanky resort in New Hampshire, Daphne feels optimistic for once. If only she had a roommate and co-worker who didn't seem to hate her on sight. Their already tense relationship gets even shakier when April and Daphne find themselves competing for a rare opportunity to showcase their art in a London museum. But slowly, barriers begin to fall and an inexplicable allure keeps drawing them closer, leaving them to wonder if the perfect picture they're looking for can only be painted with each other. So we're moving into the next week now, and books that come out on the 10th of February. The first book I have for you is She Made Herself a Monster by Anna Kovačičová. This one sounds like it's going to be a lot of the things I really enjoy. We're getting a Bulgarian setting, which I don't think I've seen very often. We're doing really dramatic high gothic. We have vampires, and we also have a con artist, which I think just always adds some good mystery and intrigue. The cover for this is absolutely stunning and actually features a close-up of one of my favourite paintings, so I'm really hoping that I'll love this one and end up buying it as a hardcover. In 19th century Bulgaria, Yana rides from one desolate town to the next, staging grisly displays with animal corpses in the public square and eggs filled with blood in the chicken coop. She tells the stricken villagers stories of vampires that stalk the night. Then Yana eliminates the threat and leaves seeds of hope in her wake. The village of Koprivici, however, is plagued by exceptional illness and misfortune, its children rarely surviving infancy. There, Yana meets a headstrong orphan who the villagers blame for their curse. As Anka approaches womanhood, the village captain is grooming her for marriage against her will. Anka is powerless against him, that is, until Yana arrives. Together, the orphan and the vampire slayer hatch a plan to conquer a monster so vile it might provide cover for Anka to escape. But their plan quickly takes on a horrifying life of its own. Inspired by Slavic folklore, She Made Herself a Monster concocts a clever mix of witchery, ghost stories, heresy and deception to spin a feminist fable about agency and the power of collective action. It is a haunting and astoundingly cathartic tale of two women who will stop at nothing to take control of their fate. On that same day, we also have Operation Bounce House by Matt Dinniman. This will be the first book of Matt Dinniman's I've read that's not a Dungeon Crawler Carl book. It does still have some similar aspects to it, the gamer angle, the science fiction, the aliens, but I'm interested to see what he's going to do with completely fresh characters and a completely fresh situation. All colonist Oliver Lewis ever wanted to do is run the family ranch with his sister, maybe play a gig or two with his band, and keep his family's ageing fleet of intelligent agricultural bots ticking as long as possible. As a fan of Earth television and culture, he figures it'll be a good thing when the transfer gate finally opens all the way and restores instant travel and full communication between Earth and his planet, New Sonoria. But there's a complication. Even though the settlers were promised they'd be left in peace, Earth's government now has other plans. The colossal Apex Corporation is hired to commence an eviction action, but maximising profits will always be Apex's #1 priority. Why spend money printing and deploying their own AI soldiers when they can turn it into a game? Why not charge bored Earthers for the opportunity to design their own war machines and remotely pilot them from the comfort of their own homes? The game is called Operation Bounce House. Oliver and his friends soon find themselves fighting for their lives against machines piloted by gamers who've paid a premium for the privilege. With the help of an old book from his grandfather and a bucket of rusty parts, Oliver is determined to defend the only home he's ever known. On February 17th, we have I'm Not the Only Murderer in My Retirement Home by Fergus Craig. Now, I will admit I am slightly losing interest in this style of naming convention on mystery novels. It feels a bit to me like the How to Kill Your Family or the Everyone in My Family is a Killer by Ben Stevenson. But despite the fact I'm getting a little tired of the naming convention, I do still love those books. And I know that authors often don't have any say and publishers often pick things that sound familiar. So I'm willing to let that slide, and I'm hoping this will be one I really enjoy. It also has a slightly older cast of protagonists, and that's something that I think I'll really enjoy. When former serial killer Carol takes her place in a luxury retirement home, she begins to find her feet with a small group of new friends. If she can only keep her past hidden, maybe she has a chance at happiness. That's when she discovers that, absurdly, every other one of the Sheldon Oaks residents was involved in the law somehow. It's not long before her true identity is leaked, and when a former police commissioner resident is murdered, naturally all eyes turn to her. Now she must solve the case to prove her innocence, just as her new friends start their own investigations into whether there is more than one killer at Sheldon Oaks. All Hail Chaos is the second of the Time of Iron books by Sarah Rees Brennan. I really loved the first installment of this series, Long Live Evil, when it came out last year. It is about a woman who is dying of end-stage cancer. She is given the opportunity to go into the world of her favourite novel, but she gets put into the body or the position of the villain of the piece, and her situation really doesn't look like her odds have improved any. There were some really great reveals towards the end of that book, and it really set up for this installment to be full of betrayal and drama and action. Ray is a fantasy reader who's been transported to her favourite fictional world of swords and sorcery, castles and monsters. Playing the villainess, she thought that she could change the narrative, but this version of the plot is far more deadly than the one she knew. Her friends are on the run. The Cobra shelters in an eerie manor haunted by dark secrets, while Amir and Laya stoke a revolution in the gutters. Undead armies roam the kingdom, raiders camp at the city gates, and the irresistible Emperor, Ray's favourite character ever, now possibly the greatest monster in the land, wants her to be his evil queen. What's a villainess to do? It's time for wicked bargains and fake engagements in a fantasy where the most dangerous thing you can do is believe in someone. Then we have Agnes Aubert's Mystical Cat Shelter by Heather Fawcett. This is one that I've read it as an ARC last year, and I gave this one 5 stars. I was really hoping that I would enjoy it because Emily Wilde is such a popular series, but it's one that I personally just didn't get along with, and I really hope that there was a Heather Fawcett book out there for me, and this one is it. This is set in 1920s Montreal, and it feels like a Studio Ghibli film come to life. This is basically Howl's Moving Castle if Sophie ran a cat sanctuary, and I was all about it. Agnes Aubert leads a meticulously organised life, and she likes it that way. As the proudly typey manager of a much-needed cat rescue charity, she has devoted her life to finding forever homes for lost cats. But after she is forced to move the cat shelter, Agnes learns that her new landlord is using her charity as a front for an internationally renowned and thoroughly disreputable magic shop. Owned by the disorganised, not to mention self-absorbed, irritating and also decidedly handsome, Havelock Renard, a magician and fallen Dark Lord, the shop draws magical clientele from around the world, partly due to the quality of Havelock's illicit goods, as well as their curiosity about his shadowy past and rumours of his incredible powers. Agnes's charity offers the perfect cover for illegal magics. Agnes couldn't care less about the shop. Magical intrigue or not, there are cats to be rescued. But when an enemy from Havelock's past resurfaces, the magic shop, and more importantly, the cat shelter, are suddenly in jeopardy. To save the shelter, will Agnes have to set aside her social conscience and protect the man who once tried to bring about the apocalypse, and is now trying to steal her heart? Moving on to the 24th of February now, we have one of the very, very few sci-fis that I put on my TBR. I'm not the greatest sci-fi reader and it does tend to take me a while to pick them up. And this one though does have a stunning cover, which I will admit plays a part, but it also sounds like something I might enjoy because it has a kind of buddy cop angle to it, and I think that could be a lot of fun. This is After the Fall by Edward Ashton. Part alien invasion story, part buddy comedy, and part workplace satire. Would humans really make great pets? Humans must be silent. Humans must be obedient. Humans must be good. All his life, John has tried to live by those rules. Most days, it's not too difficult. 120 years after the fall, and 100 years after the Greys swept in to pick the last dregs of humanity out of the wreckage of a ruined world, John has found himself bonded to Martok Barden, née Blackhand, one of the good Greys. Sure, Martok is broke, homeless and a borderline maniac, but he's always treated John like an actual person and sometimes like a friend. It's a better deal than most humans get. But when Martok puts John's bond up as collateral against an abandoned house in the woods that he hopes to turn into a wilderness retreat for wealthy Greys, John learns that there are limits to Martok's friendship. Soon he finds himself caught between an underworld boss who thinks Martok is something that he very much is not, a girl who was raised by feral humans and has nothing but contempt for pets like John, and Martok himself, whose delusions of grandeur seem to be finally catching up with him. Also, not for nothing, something in the woods has been killing people. John has 60 days before Martok's loan comes due to unravel the mystery of how humans wound up holding the wrong end of the domestication stick, and find a way to turn Martok's half-baked plans into profit enough to buy back his life, all while avoiding getting butchered by feral humans or having his head crushed by an angry Grey. Easy peasy, right? Another sequel where I haven't read the first book, but I don't think it's gonna matter, is And Now Back to You by B.K. Borison. I do have First Time Caller on my bookshelf, I just haven't got to it yet, but I think from the sounds of this one I maybe don't need to, so I'll just get to whichever one I'm in the mood for, whichever one is easier to get hold of in the moment. Two competing meteorologists are forced to find common ground in this opposites attract when Harry met Sally inspired romance. Jackson Clark and Delilah Stewart have had their fair share of run-ins over the years, often ending in disaster. While Jackson thrives on routine and organisation from the comfort of his radio booth, Delilah loves the spontaneity and adventure out in the field. When they're partnered against their will to cover the snowstorm of the century, they find themselves scrambling to figure out how to work together. Eager to be taken seriously as a journalist, Delilah offers Jackson a deal. If he can help her ace this assignment, she'll help him rediscover his long-lost fun side. With an undiscovered chemistry burning beneath their clashes, the unlikely partnership quickly tumbles into an easy and surprising friendship. But when other feelings start to enter the equation, can Jackson and Delilah withstand the storm? Or does what happens in the mountains stay in the mountains? And the final book that I have in mind for February is Dollface by Lindy Ryan. I have heard really good things about Lindy Ryan's previous book, Bless Your Heart. Dollface is pitched as a mashup between Barbie and slasher movies, and I think again this could be the kind of really fun book that I need to break up all the dark February weather. Horror author Jill has just moved to suburban New Jersey, hoping to fit in with the new PTA moms and maybe not weird everyone out with her final girl coffee mug. You know, make some real friends. But then a plastic face mask serial killer begins slashing their way through the town, one overly made up mom at a time. The police are incredulous, the moms are indignant, and Jill is slowly wrapped into a killer's murderous spree until she might just be the last woman standing. A delightfully murderous novel that is equal parts scathing and salacious, Dollface will win you over with its gossip and gore, one body at a time. So there you have the 12 books that I am the most excited about coming out in February. I very, very much doubt that I'm going to get to more than a couple in February itself, but I will be adding them to my TBR for the entire year and trying to get through them a bit at a time. Let me know if any of these here have interested you. Let me know which ones here you did or didn't know about and which one you'd be most interested in picking up. I really hope you've enjoyed the video and I hope that I'm going to see you in the next one. Goodbye.